Leave the light so everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to grow. I'm not the one with two star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born.
Yeah. I have thought of changing the song here, but man, there's times when I hear it, I don't think there's a more appropriate song.
It's good.
I mean, when you really listen to the lyrics,
yeah,
that is a great song. It's just when you're born again, when you're truly born again, that says it all. It says it all, Dave.
As Jim Carrey said, remember him in Morgan Freeman?
That is a crazy movie. That was before he went all wacko and decided to
before it went to his head.
I guess, and that didn't work out well for him, did it?
Yeah,
they just. It's so funny how people go left and then the left doesn't really embrace them really well, and it's because the left is just a bunch of losers and a bunch of spoiled children. And they don't play well with others.
Yeah,
never has a saying fit better than the left. They don't play well with others. Now, that needs to be they should all wear T-shirts. Yeah. Don't play well with others.
Yeah, when my son was 4, neighbor girl comes over. She's from a good Christian family. She was about 6 months younger than my son. And she already learned the manipulation tricks. They're playing in the sandbox backyard. And he says, no, don't want to do that. She says, if you don't, I'll go home. He said, fine, go home. Burn her. She's okay, we'll do it your way.
I have to tell you, so I don't know if I ever told you this. So we're new to Youth with a Mission. We joined. And so we're living in the community there in Holland.
Okay.
And the leaders of the part we lived at was called the Herdershof. It had this big giant house and then had these little cabin bungalow things, which we lived in. Austere, but I grew to love it. I mean, our living room had a hole under the window and we're like in these sub-zero temperatures, but weird. We just covered up enough, we didn't really, it didn't bug us. We got used to it. But anyway, so
is
our next door neighbors, they had a daughter. And so the daughter was a spoiled brat. So our kids are all out playing. My daughter, my son was 2. And the other little girl was neighbor. So anyway, so my son, there was card out there that you could write something. So my son, and it was by itself, it was nothing. So my son decides to get on, and this little girl goes over, and starts pushing my son and doing all this stuff to take the car. And I yelled, I saw my daughter over there. I said, Talitha. And I pointed over. And so she saw what was going on. So she got in between my son and this girl. And so she just stood there like, just didn't do it, just stood there. And this little girl was, get out of my way, a Dutch girl. The girl was in Dutch, And so she's trying to get around my daughter. My daughter wouldn't move, protecting her little brother. Just a 2-year difference. And my daughter, as I said, she was 4.
Oh, between 4 and 2 is a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, no, she was 3.
Okay.
But still, yeah. But the little girl, this little girl was really pretty obnoxious. It was pretty bad. But anyway, so she's trying to, so all of a sudden, the little girl grabs my daughter and tries to push her out of the way. And out of nowhere, my daughter comes and just smacked the girl and knocked her like about 5 feet. And the little girl just screamed. No. They couldn't believe somebody. And so my wife was also on this little porch where we were, and the mother of the other little girl was sitting next to us. So it was us sitting here and the mom of the other girl sitting here.
Yeah.
And the little girl just couldn't believe it and turned around, started screaming and running to her mother. And so there was this house where the people who were like the leaders of this little Dutch couple. And so this woman came to us, the leader of the YWAM community there, says, you know, what your daughter did, she should not have done. We need to love Renska. That was the little girl's name. We need to love Renska. And I said, yeah, my daughter did love her for about 5 feet, you know, with the left hand of fellowship. Well, anyway, but the mother of the little girl told my wife, oh, I thank your daughter for us. Renska needed that. She knows no boundaries, and that taught her she cannot get everything she wants like that. Here's what the ending to the story. Renska is now a missionary in Tanzania. Yeah, she's a missionary. Thank you. Our mailman. I told him to come and throw the mail in over here. So anyway, but Renska is now a missionary in Tanzania, grew up a beautiful woman and in her 40s. Yeah. You know, but and doing mission. But after that, it changed the little girl's life. Yeah. But it's funny how that worked. But here's the other thing. Here's what's funny. So another time, shortly thereafter, probably 6 months, 8 months later, we're in Amsterdam in a store and in a photo store. I'm trying to get pictures developed. And they have this this beam thing that sets off, you know, as someone's coming in to make sure nobody comes in to try to steal. So I'm standing at the counter and I'm here. The guy looks, I look over, there's my son. He's there just going back and forth. And I said, Eli, quit that. I turn around. I told you to quit that. So I go towards him. What happens? My daughter does the same. Stands there like a statue between me and him. You must go through me. I was thinking, are you kidding me? No. She was going to protect her brother with her life. No matter, I mean, it was, and I just looked and I couldn't do anything but admire, you know, her attitude, thinking, wow. And I want to say to him, you do not know how fortunate you are to have a sister like that. And he still does not know, I don't think, how fortunate he was to have a sister like that who would, you know, go to the mat for him to protect him. Yeah. I mean, it's really something to see that. When you see that, and, you know, they fight like cats and dogs, but man, she would protect with her life. It's just the most amazing thing. And, you know, they'll argue like cats and dogs. Oh, yeah. But do not mess with her brother.
Can I ask you something? Now, you grew up an Army kid, right? An E1, that's the bottom. You just got out of basic, right?
That's what they call a buck private.
Buck private, right?
Buck private.
And then an E2 is private first class?
No, second class.
Second class.
Yeah, private first class. You start a third, second, first. It goes the other way around. You go private third class, private second class, private first class.
And then what is a corporal? Is that a 4?
E4? That's an E4, right? Yeah. Or and they also call it Spec 4, specialist, because they have this thing MOS, which is your specialty. And when you're a specialist, it's a different. It's no stripes.
Okay. Well, here's why I'm getting to.
Okay.
My dad was drafted, by the local draft board in those days, which was run by a competitor of my grandfather's in the lumber industry. And he threatened, he says, you sell to me and to me only, or your boys are going to war. And did. But the guy got run out of town for it. He got punished. But still, they got drafted. And my grandpa said to my dad, my Uncle Roger, you guys go serve. Despite all this, go serve. My uncle ended up in Rangers. He was jumping out of planes. Right. He was like, I mean, a god. He was just built, like a Greek. But my dad was a scrawny little guy, about 5'6".
Right.
And he was in the an engineering outfit building an airport, basically, a construction kind of guy. But he went over to Korea really as just entry level, got nothing. And they had to take turns being quarterback at times filling in. He had the overnight shift. And the sergeant said, or the commanding officer said, so-and-so is going to come to get these supplies tonight, and don't you dare release them. They're going to come middle of the night. And sure enough, bunch came with orders, and my dad looks at it, he says, I'm not under this person's command. I'm refusing the order. They went up again. Way to Japan to, the office there where they were running the war from Japan. Right. And all the way up to Army, to a general, and a general ordered it released. So it was about 3:30 in the morning. My dad calls his commanding officer, wakes him up, said, I'm letting you know I have an order now coming from da-da-da-da. I'm releasing them. Guy says, all right. And goes back to sleep. So my dad had pulled a 24-hour, and he got done. He was home, goes to bed. About 3 p.m, he wakes up, and in those days, you wanted any information, you go over to the bulletin board. That was where information's at. And he just happened to be browsing through it, and it says, in commendations, advancements, they moved him all the way up to what they at that time called a buck sergeant or corporal.
No, buck sergeant is above a corporal.
Okay, it is.
Buck sergeant E5, corporal E4, yeah.
But he moved all the way to buck sergeant because he understood authority and who he was to obey and who he was not to obey. And to me, that was the honing your daughter had to do. She's protecting from a bully, but I think you probably resolved that. No, you don't stand in my way when I'm correcting your brother.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't, because to me, it was like I admired the fact that she would protect her brother.
Right.
But at the same time, she gave him a look like, quit.
Okay. I'm sure that,
Yeah. No.
To me, there's a little more honing to be done.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And she would think, why do you do such? To me, the example is more the advocate. It's like Jesus between us and God.
That's true.
God,
the mediator.
Jesus mediating between us. He looks at me and says, Eddie, why do you keep doing such stupid things?
Yeah.
Father, forgive him. For he knows not what he. That would probably be the best example.
Yeah.
And in Hebrews, 3, where it says that, we have the advocate that knows our infirmities. He knows the stupid things, and he's been through, Hebrews 2 and 3, where it goes through the whole thing, where he knows us, and therefore he is able to be that advocate for us between the Father and us. But anyway, that's just a little sideline. I don't even, again, as always, I don't know how we get here, but we get here. Someone out there needs that today. Someone out there needs that today. The touch and love of a brother for his sister and sister for a brother, and the protection, and also the mediator between God and man. And
we need more of those.
Yeah, we do.
Right now, we've got wars going on in the world that need somebody to step up. And unfortunately, we don't have an executive in the White House who has that capacity.
No, it's very scary. The things going on with the UN, they're making decisions now, which are just crazy decisions. And it's almost like they're thumbing their nose at everyone that says, stop. You're going down. It's like going down a road with warning sign after warning sign after warning. Bridge out.
Yeah.
And we're just going to go down this road. They think it's so funny. We have the term poking the bear, and it's like, it's amazing that the symbolism that Russia, the symbol for Russia is the bear.
Yeah.
And we're truly poking the bear. And I saw the cutest thing on Facebook. It was a video someone posted, a YouTube video, and it was a Russian video of this Russian diplomat who had a dog. And the dog couldn't go on a trip with this man. I guess he was a diplomat or something. So he leaves the dog at the airport. And he gets on this plane and he flies away. And the dog just faithfully every day goes to the airport to wait for him to come back. He'll come back. And he never comes back. But the dog is so faithful that there's a crew, and they was particularly one flight attendant. She feeds the dog every day. And this goes on for a few years, several years. And they finally build a pen for this dog. And rain, hail, sleet, snow, the dog is there waiting. And finally the dog gets up, and then finally there's one of the workers at the airport sees, he brings his son to meet the dog. The dog just won't get up and move. So the little boy goes out there and he loves the dog. And one night it's raining, and the little boy goes out in the rain, and he takes off his own coat and puts it over the dog and lays there with the dog. And that morning, when the boy wakes up, the dog is up, and now the dog is bonded with the little boy. And all of a sudden, the original owner comes back, and they make a big deal out of it, and they lead him to the dog, and now he's leaving again. He wants to take the dog with him. And the little boy is crying because he's fallen in love with the dog, and the dog recognizes his own. He goes to him, and they take the dog with him. And yet the dog turns around, and now he wants to go back to the little boy.
Yeah.
But they make him go on the plane. But while he's on the plane, all of a sudden the dog fights him. And finally the older guy, he lets the dog go, and he runs. And he's reunited with the little boy. And it's a very touching. You almost want to cry a few times in the middle of this. It's like a 10-minute little video thing.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at by this, it reminds me of the song by Sting back in the 80s, that Russians love their children too.
Yeah.
And we're at a place again where we as a people are being asked to hate Russians.
Yeah.
The Democrat Party, the leftist media, the World, Economic Forum, the WEF, the guys, the puppet masters, they are trying to get you and me and Dave and everyone to hate Russia, the Russians. Remember, the Russians love their children as much as you. The people that were murdered at the mall in Russia a couple of weeks ago by whoever these terrorists were working for, It's just like the people of Israel that were murdered several months ago.
Yeah.
Just like the people in America that are murdered by terrorists on 9/11 in airplanes that are hijacked and so forth and so on, and that are killed in the Middle East and all over the world. This is what we have to remember. We're too quick to generalize about our enemies.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So last Sunday, Easter Sunday, Debbie and I are at church with our son, Charlie. He's associate pastor at church in Broken Arrow. And one of the young women on staff there, her name's Yanni. Yanni's gone with my son to visit my parents and my family in Minnesota on the farms and everything. Yanni's grew up in Moscow. She's actually an attorney, trained attorney, but she left all of that to come here, serve in local church ministry. And so I saw Yanni afterwards because we were doing kind of an impromptu baptism. And I said, hey, we didn't announce or anything, but if you just came back to God today and you want to be baptized now, come on. And so I went over. Yanni was actually with the women getting them ready and stuff, but she came over and she gave me a big hug and she just said, I said, how's your dad? She says, my dad says that the two people he really felt closest to was you and your son, Charlie. And because in her dad, University of Moscow and stuff. But all this week, and I was going to talk to you about, we need to get Yanni in here. We need to get Yanni to help us feel a sense of connection with the average Russian people, not the government, the people. And so I'm going to work on that and see when we can get her in here. I think it'd be delightful because she's about as bubbly a person as I know, but sharp as a tack. She's an attorney, and so, but I'm glad you said that, Eddie, because we were lied to a lot in the Cold War. Find out afterwards, the Russians feared us maybe more than we feared them. I mean, when there was a point when Reagan was president and something happened and all of a sudden there was this alert and something was going on and the Russians took their subs and said, head to the North Pole, get away. And we were trailing. We didn't know that at the time, but every time one of their subs left port, we were there ready to trail them from beginning to end. I had no idea we were doing that. But we saw their instinct was to avoid a confrontation. And I'm like, holy crap, they're lying to us all this time. I don't know, is that the military-industrial complex? It's just stoking war.
It's what Dwight David Eisenhower reminded us of in I think his last State of the Union speech, or maybe it was in the next to last in 1958. I don't know if you've heard that. It's available on YouTube. It's Dwight David Eisenhower, President Eisenhower in 1958 State of the Union speech, where he's warning about the industrial military complex and the danger it presented to.
But that was the thing. It was after that incident, and we didn't even know about that incident until after the Cold War's over. But that changed Reagan fundamentally. He went from calling him an evil empire to saying, I'm going to work with Gorbachev and we're going to resolve this matter. It just
beginning with governor. I talk about in my book how the whole gun confiscation and the strict gun laws you have in California, and which are now trying to be fostered upon us in America, those began with Ronald Reagan. And it was because of his fear and the fear of the Black Panther Party. They used to walk around open carry in Oakland, California. And I think we've talked about this before, how someone thought, well, we can't have these N-words walking around the streets. with shotguns and semi-automatic 30-06s at that time. There were no ARs back then, but these guys would have, bandolero belts hanging around their shoulders and shotguns, and they looked very threatening, and to some of us who were young and dumb, looked very cool.
Yeah.
And we wanted to emulate that, like idiots. But that's what started it. And guess who supported the then governor of California, Reagan? The NRA. The NRA is very much responsible for anti-gun legislation in California, which has now come back to bite them.
Yep.
And they're opposed to the same legislation that they foster. I mean, it's so strange how things are right. Like closer to home, in the early 2000s, what did the Bush administration come up with? The Patriot Act.
Yep.
Which we now realize was not necessarily such a good thing.
It's
because
as unpatriotic as can be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have to be slower to support some of these great ideas that are not so great ideas.
Yeah, and they're sold as a knee-jerk reaction many times. Stuart Rhodes, who, started, between him and the FBI or CIA or whoever, because I fully believe now there's a government front organization, the Oath Keepers. And then when the local chapter in Missouri saw the rioting in Ferguson and the black shop owners being the ones really getting hit hard, and they decide, you know what, we will arm you so you can protect your property. We're not coming on your property because it's not ours, but you need to be armed. And the Oath Keeper, Stewart and bunch, pulled their franchise, said, you're no longer part of Oath Keepers nationally, which I think was probably the best thing ever could happen. But I've seen so many times deep state operations co-opting things. At times I felt that way about national right to life. Like, I don't think they wanted a solution because then they don't exist anymore.
Exactly. It's the opposite of the NAACP because they don't want an end to social issues because they're out of a job.
Yes.
Al Sharpton. Need Al Sharpton anymore if all of a sudden there isn't a racial issue any longer.
Remember 2012 debate between Romney and Obama. And Romney says something about national security to the point of a vulnerability with the Soviet Union. And Obama mocked him. He says, hey, the Cold War's calling. They want their narrative back. Basically, Obama's saying, we don't fear the Soviet Union anymore. That's 2012. You move 3 years forward, and Hillary is talking, more of the same lies and diatribes about Donald Trump as a Soviet operative, a Russian agent, And to me, there's just so much lies.
Oh, listen, that is the MO, the modus operandi, the Democrat Party. They honestly, and I don't know what plainer terms to state this in, they are nothing but deceptive, conniving political operation.
Yeah.
The political operatives, I believe, set to now undermine our nation.
Yeah.
And here, I'm so glad we're coming on this. I am convinced that probably 30% of the Republican Party today, even in Oklahoma, are no longer really Republicans. They are Democrats that have seen they can no longer be elected as Democrats and are running as Republicans.
Yeah.
Truly rhinos, Republicans in name only. one of the truest examples was our former superintendent of education.
Yes.
Who ran as a Republican. And as soon as her term was over as superintendent of education, she switched Democrat to the Democrat Party and ran for governor as a Democrat, which she always was in spirit. And we see that now. I'm seeing it at our state capitol. I'm seeing it in Texas. You see it in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
You see it in Georgia. You see it in Virginia. We're seeing it in North Carolina. We're seeing it everywhere, people. Beware. Beware. We do need to have purity tests.
Yeah.
People always say, oh, we can't have purity tests. Yes, we can. We need to have purity tests and have these people sign our doctrinal statements. As you would in ministry, we need to have a doctrinal statement. What is your doctrine of faith? Actually, I mean, there's no other term for it. What do you believe in politically? A political doctrine of faith needs to be drawn up. And what do we call it in political terms? What is platform? Our party platform. And do not let these people who draft these platforms water them down anymore. But we need to have people sign off on these platforms, everyone. And if they don't do it, we don't vote for them. And if they break it, we fire them.
So on the Joy Hoffmeister thing.
Okay, back to Joy.
Yes.
Joyless Hoffmeister.
Yeah. So back in the 80s, Democrat Party ruled everything in the state. They ruled this town. Now, we were still between Utica Square and I-44, there was a pocket of Republicans, right? But other than that, the rest of the city, it was Democrat. And one of the most powerful people was a Senator Kevin Easley. And then he left because he got this powerful appointment to, and his mother ran for his seat. And if there was any more powerful than Kevin, it's his mother, Mary Easley. And she so owned the Oklahoma Education Association. She was the teacher caucus head. And fast forward now, about 8 years ago, I'm putting up some Christmas lights, decorating an entry for a neighborhood. It was new, and one of the guys on the board lived right by the entrance, and his last name was Easley. I said, "Are you related to Kevin and Mary Easley?" He says, "Well, yeah." He says, "But I'm more closely related to somebody else in government." And I said, "Who's that?" He said, "Well, Joy Hoffmeister is my cousin." So you got Hoffmeisters connected to the Easleys and the education power in the state. She always was. And all of a sudden the light comes on. And then I see this indictment of her in Fount Holland showing the narrative of using the education establishment money to back her and get rid of Janet Barisi.
Yeah.
Threw her out of office. Yeah. And got Republicans to do it.
Dave, I don't know if you remember, I was at KFAQ and I was vehemently against her.
Yeah.
I was fighting her. I was in the studio when they had the debates and I was doing everything. And she knew that I couldn't stand. She couldn't look me in the eye because she knew I knew from the time. But I could not get anyone to listen to her.
Yeah.
And it was the Tulsa GOP clubs,
the Tea Party
and them, who basically threw Janet Barisi under the bus. And the reason we became we've always been this way, and we've got to stop. Became one single issue. And you know what the issue was? It was this whole thing with what is this thing out of Florida? Education issue. Common Core. It was all about Common Core because Mary Fallon and Janet Barisi would not get rid of Common Core.
Yeah.
They supported Common Core.
Yes.
And I tried to tell Janet Barisi, get rid of your support of Common Core. In fact, her campaign manager, we became friends. And I told him, he ended up resigning because he agreed with me and tried to get her. But she was faithful to the end to Mary Fallon.
Yeah.
Janet Barisi was.
Yeah.
She would not ditch it because of Mary Fallon.
Yeah.
And Mary Fallon, for some reason, thought Jeb Bush was going to be president and wanted to support him with Common Core.
Right.
Because, and let me give you a little more inside the huddle stuff. The reason Common Core worked is because what it did, it graded everything on a curve.
Yes. Relative.
It was all relative, right? So it brought everybody at the bottom up because it brought everything at the top down. So it made it look like everyone was doing that much better than they really were.
Yeah, to get an A this year didn't mean the same as getting an A last year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In other words, excellence was no longer as excellent as it used to be.
Yeah.
So, but those are bygones. But what we have got to do today, we have got to clean house and Senate too, as I say. Texas is in peril. Oklahoma is in peril. Florida is in peril. All of the Georgia, I mean, goodness, they're really in peril. So we have got to get back, kind of like I think Alabama is probably one of the states that is the most true, and actually probably states like Montana, Wyoming, and some of those are the most conservative these days.
Yeah.
That's where everybody's fleeing now.
Right. But what I want to get at here
What do you want to get at, David?
Okay. I had a debate online this week with some radical leftists. And as much as you and I both tried to warn people years ago, and now feel vindicated on the Hoffmeister thing. The term Christian nationalist is now the operative term the left is using. Why? Because they can define it as anything they want to. So when this woman says we got to get rid of the Christian nationalists in Oklahoma government, and there was a special election for the city council in Enid this week, and they threw a guy out who they had defined as Christian nationalist. So here's my thing. I started saying, I'm proud nationalist. I cheer on the Americans at the Olympics because they're my people, right? I salute the flag. Nothing wrong with nationalism, believing in my country. And I said, it wouldn't matter if I was Christian, Buddhist, or a Hindu or Muslim or whatever. And I said, to this lady, I said, do you have the same problem with Buddhist nationalists? And well, she didn't want to define it with me. She just wanted to beat me over the head with it.
Sure. That's what they want to do. See, here's the problem. They have gotten to the point where that's all they have to do. They don't have to defend themselves. They have to just throw the term. They've been able to redefine the term,
right, and
identify a group with it to the point where all people see is if you're a Bible-believing, a conservative, Bible-believing Christian, you are now a Christian nationalist.
Right. But you take when John Kennedy ran for president, you were older than me. You remember those days, and remember they accused him of not being fit because he's a Catholic. That kind of Christian can't be a nationalist because his allegiance to the Pope, right? So I think we need to ask people when they use this term, is it the Christian thing you have a problem with or the nationalist thing?
Right.
Because they don't have I look at Jews, they are always quick to smell out anti-Semitism. But what happens when you got Jewish bigotry going on? Because I have a neighbor who's a Hasidic Jewish rabbi that won't hardly talk to me.
Oh, yeah.
Now, his wife's sweet as can be because I bailed her out when her kids were in trouble in a hot parking lot and they're stranded, But you have that same kind of racial bigotry amongst many in the tribes in Oklahoma.
Oh, sure you do.
But somehow we don't call out that bigotry.
Right. How about Native nationalists?
Mm-hmm.
Really? I mean, you got it. You've got, I remember being on KFAQ and having a member of the Cherokee tribe just ticked off at me because I questioned some of their practices.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was just hot.
Right.
So to him, being a Cherokee was more important than being an Oklahoman.
Yeah.
And you've got that now. I mean, that battle is still going on.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I don't know if you have it down to talk about the latest in the court case between the deal.
Oh, Keith Stitt, I sent you that link.
Yeah.
Governor Stitt's brothers fighting.
Which is, I love that. But anyway, it's gotten to the point, all of this comes down to a me-centered, it's not ethnocentric. It's just, what do you call it? Egocentric.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about me.
Mm-hmm.
What about me,
Mm-hmm.
And I will use anything that's going to further me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Today, it's like my son, my dad, I think I told this story. My son came home in the 8th grade. Dad, they asked me what race I am. What race should I put down here? I said, whichever one opens the door the widest and pays you the most today. Tomorrow we will revisit it. No, and I was joking, but you should have seen his face. He lit up like, oh, and he turned around. He turned around and took off. And it's the funniest thing. But but that really is where people are at today. If you're a Cherokee, Muskogee, Creek, I don't care. I'm just using this as an example, okay? So don't scout me because of it. I just had to throw that out.
Yes.
There. No, but anyway, but whatever it is, if I'm this today, I want to be that tomorrow. I want to use it if that's going to get me ahead.
Right.
And it just makes me sick. And you used to call it the good old boy network.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the good old boy network has become the good old girl network today. It's the female thing, right? Mm-hmm. The women are, in fact, people getting SBA loans, right? Mm-hmm. There was a time where if you were a woman.
Yeah, you couldn't get a loan.
And now, women get more SBA loans than men do. It's easier for a woman to get. I remember years ago, before I became a missionary, I was a claims adjuster, but I wanted to become an insurance agent. And so I interviewed with State Farm. Mm-hmm. And the guy was interviewing me. And basically, the guy said, listen, I'd like to hire you, but right now, we're looking for women.
Yeah.
And you just straight up, no, really, you straight up told me that they were looking to hire more women.
Yep.
And so, we may want you later, but right now we're looking for women.
His quote is.
And so, of course, he can't be in trouble because he's looking for women. If he said he was looking for a white person, he'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if he was looking for men, he'd be in trouble.
Yep.
But no, you can't be in trouble for looking for women or looking for somebody black or looking for someone Hispanic because they are the underrepresented group.
Yeah.
And this is what corner we have painted ourselves into. Mm-hmm. And it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's going to come to the boiling point and the point of no return where you have these factions that are fighting because once you cut this one off, they're going to say why, and they're going to have an animosity towards this one, and you're going to have 10 groups all ticked off.
Yeah.
And then they won't know who to be ticked off at.
Right.
But for the conceivable future, the one they're going to be ticked off is white males.
Yeah, they're always at the bottom.
Right. Even though white males, I hate to say it, white males are the ones who made this country what it is today. Mm-hmm. Yes, call me whatever you will, mm-hmm. but it is what it is, mm-hmm. okay, until it's not. And sadly, it's the non-white males and females that are making the country what it is today, mm-hmm. which is a dirtbag. Mm-hmm. It just is. Booker T. Washington saw so clearly, he was a prophet out of his time. He realized that, yes, there is a time that is coming, a potential time in the future when there would be the contribution of Black Americans. Mm-hmm. There would be a time in the future when non-white Americans of, you name it, Asians, Native Americans, whatever, would rise to come to an equality. But you can't force it. You can't just make that happen. In other words, you can't make this group great by tearing this one down. We're back to the Common Core. Mm-hmm. You can't make minority and underachievers great and achieve by lowering the achievement of others. Yeah. It just doesn't work that way.
That's true.
You can't make a great business in New York by taking away Donald Trump's billions. You're not going to create new billionaires just by destroying the billionaires that exist. Yeah. We're going to take theirs, and that's going to make these billionaires, because these guys here don't know how to do it. They will lose it as quickly as you give it to them. Yeah. And that's what's happening in America.
Yeah.
You've got to make them struggle and learn and achieve to make America great.
And this is why I would not send my kid to a liberal university today. They can't even define a biological man from a woman. They teach a narrative of a zero-sum game of, if you got wealthier, then you're responsible for somebody getting poorer. If I go clear land and build a house, that doesn't mean that somebody lost their house. I've just developed. And development doesn't mean taking away from somebody else. But on the left and in the universities, they teach it, and these kids buy it.
Have you been following the story about squatters?
Yes.
In America?
Yeah,
It's like a daily news story now in California, and of course, California.
Yeah, in Florida.
It's spreading. Well, no, but in Florida, the sheriffs there are saying, no, they're arresting the squatters.
Right. They're being assertive, but it also took some legal maneuvers because it was really bad 5 years ago in Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, that may be, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's common sense that if you own a house and you go on vacation, somebody breaks in, changes the locks, and calls the water company and changes the bill on it.
Yeah.
And just because the bill is now in their name, it's not their house.
Yeah.
Whereas in California, Oregon, Washington, the typical states, they can get away with this.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well, we've legalized it during COVID. And even in our own legislature, Tom Gann ran a bill basically saying, look, either the state is going to fund these landlords what they lost, or we're going to get rid of this, no expelling, no evicting during the whole COVID era. Because the government just makes these mandates on landlords and doesn't fund it. And in my mind, that's a violation of the Fifth Amendment, that you don't take away something from somebody without giving them just compensation.
Right.
It's part of our eminent domain thing.
But what's so funny about the squatters thing is it was happening in Holland when we moved there 40 years ago.
Yeah.
In the 80s. They call them crackers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they would crack the house. And but they had huge riots, the squatters riots, and thousands of people, tens of thousands of people were in Amsterdam. I still have photos of from the window of our building down of these, in the police with tear gas and fighting because they were fighting for their rights to break in and steal people's. Over there, the Dutch, most of them were apartments and things versus houses, but they could break in and steal and take over your. And now they brought it here to America.
I had one about 4 or 5 years ago. Squatters across the street from me. It was a rental house. Actually, it was a house my wife and I bid on. We were going to buy it and found out they'd taken a bid on it, and so we bought the house across the street. But. Yeah. Young family, they present us, we're the new neighbors and everything. And they had 2 little girls. And
I keep hearing somebody knock it. You want to keep talking? You want to take the next story? I'm going to go check something.
But so anyway, what's going on is these people are living there, but the house is kind of run. It had been a rental house, and the lady got a divorce who had the ownership of the house and just kind of absent landlord. And so they're living here, and the house has kind of been run down, and so then I'm like, gosh, why aren't these people fixing up this house? They're doing as little as possible. And all of a sudden, next day, I find out they're gone. And I'm like, what happened to them? And the next door neighbor to them said, ends up they were squatters here. And the lady who owns the house comes by and threw a fit, and she called the police and everything, and then got a nasty, got an attorney to write a nasty letter and all this. And the family just evidently they found another house to move into and moved over there. But when you see somebody living in a house but letting it continue to fall apart, and then by the time these squatters moved out, it was in such disrepair. Oh my God, somebody ended up coming in and buying it for about half the value of the other house in the neighborhood, threw some money into it. Now it's one of the nicest houses in the neighborhood. But, this lady who owned it, she was kind of absent landlord, and they looked for these things.
Yeah.
So
it's gotten to the point now, though, if there are a lot of people, for example, in insurance, you can buy insurance for like a lot of people have a second home, a summer home and a
lake house.
A lake house, right. Mm-hmm. You may go there only on weekends or leave it sit during the winter. Mm-hmm. And they'll find these places and move in. So you may not go there for a month.
Oh, yeah. The snowbirds. Florida Sea has a lot of those.
Right.
For the summer, my wife's grandparents went to Florida every winter.
Right.
But in the summer, it's gone.
Yeah. And so I saw on Newsmax, they had a guy who will specialize in getting it back for a year. And what they do, they have a team, and they wait for the squatters to leave the house.
Yeah.
And when they're gone, they go in, they break in, put new locks on, and repossess the house.
Yeah.
And then get them out. And when they come back.
In fact, my oldest brother was taking care of my aunt in her last days. She had a place in in Arizona. And the deal that they arranged in this community, homeowner association kind of thing, when you let them know that you're leaving, they become the default manager of that property in your absence at a fee.
Right.
But they had the power of attorney. They had the power to have these people evicted. And so people would go somewhere else to somebody who just owns a house in some neighborhood that's not part of a, neighborhood community, homeowner association. Right. But yeah, because it's a bad deal.
I know. But this is the type of thing the world has gotten to. It's just gone crazy. Mm-hmm. It's just gone to the point where you have to go through extraordinary measures to protect your home. Speaking of that, by the way, I wanted to tell you, as you know, a little under a year ago, May 30th to be exact, my mother passed away.
Right.
And so I just this week got my mother's house.
He was a squatter. Sorry.
Oh man.
You walked right into that one, Eddie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm speechless.
That was below the belt, Eddie. I'm sorry.
I was a squatter. I deserved it.
Yeah.
Because it just walked right into that one. Anyway, no, what it is, my mother, my dad was a 100% disabled
Yes.
dad. And because of when you have 100% disability, you or your spouse, you don't pay property tax.
Yeah, it's an Oklahoma state law.
State law. So because my mother lived with us, we had the house in her name.
Yes.
And so because we had it in her name, we didn't pay property tax.
Sure. That was nice of your mother.
Yes, it was.
To let you live with her.
Thank you. At least we didn't pretend we were full-time pastors of a church.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Because in Tulsa County, they get a sweet gig they don't get in other counties.
Yeah.
Yeah, according to Sandy Hodges, a woman I respect greatly, the Wagner County, she told me of close friends of the family. She says they did not get their pastors, parsonage allowance.
But in Tulsa, they do.
A parsonage exemption. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, even some who don't even have a church. Hello, Jesse. And this is an issue.
I'm thinking of opening the Tulsa branch of the Church of What's Happening Now.
John Erling would love you.
Church of What's Happening Now.
That's what the famous radio voice in Tulsa, John Erling, for years. He actually got one of his mail order preacher's certificate, and he called his church the Church of What's Happening Now.
Well, he got that from Flip Wilson.
Okay, that's right.
The Flip Wilson show. It was the.
See, it was a black man came up with that.
Exactly. Yeah, and a white man trying to steal a black man's idea again.
God, I miss Flip. Flip was one of the best.
Yeah, he was. But anyway, so I had to go through, let's put this, an ordeal and some expense. I was fortunate that my mother and father knew how to take care of business and get a will.
Yeah.
They did a will and took care of all of that with the will and naming me as the successor. And
you're their only kid.
Right. But even if I weren't, a will would dispose of it properly. Yeah. That's how you do it. And a trust is no good because she had a trust which named it, but because to get the military disability exemption, it can't be in a trust. Exactly.
A trust doesn't get benefits like that.
But I want to tell people, but the easier way to get it, because regardless,
listen to this, folks.
Yeah, you have to do what's called a quit claim deed. Okay, mark this down. A quit claim deed. Quit claim deed. It's a 1-page sheet of paper, very easy to do. You just put who the party that owns the property, who they want to give it to, you date it, and upon the death, you designate that.
Right.
And then you take it and have it notarized and you file it. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it's a done deal. Once the person dies, you bring the certificate of death, the property is transferred. You don't have to pay a lawyer. You don't have to go to court. I had to go to court, have a lawyer, pay a few $1,000s.
Was this a probate court thing you had
to do?
Yeah.
Yes. The judge was very nice, had good attorneys that took care of it all. It still cost me about $3,000, maybe $4,000 to go through this via the quit claim deed, which I didn't know anything about. Right. In fact, I wouldn't have had to go through this.
You specify a little bit. You're right. It names who's the owner, who the designee is, and then in the middle, you've got the trigger, so to speak. What event It could be the death of a person. It could be reaching a certain age or a certain calendar date.
Thank you, Dave, for taking something very simple that I explained and making it a little more complicated.
Well, the reason is you may have another scenario.
I know, but I'm just saying right now we're dealing with and the people, if they get the quit claim deed, it's self-explanatory.
Yes.
It's a one-page sheet that transfers your property to whomever you want it transferred to. That's really all you need to know.
Yeah.
And the story. A will is something from bygone eras. Okay. Now you still want to do a will for all your other stuff.
Yeah, but it's not a government document. A will is a private contract.
Right.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, wills are cumbersome. It takes a while. You got to pay lawyers, et cetera, et cetera. So as I said, do a trust, do a will, but when it comes to the big stuff, particularly property, home, which is usually your big deal.
Yeah.
You want to do a quit claim deed, QUIT claim DEED, quit claim deed. You can print it offline. You can go downtown to the county and they'll give you one.
Yeah.
Take it, fill it out, or just go to a notary. And have it completed.
Well, Mike Willis is great. He's the county clerk, and I know Mike. He's got great people skills, and he doesn't want to make it more difficult, but he'll do enough to protect property from, unlawful transfer. So I have to say. We've got some good people, those of you who live here in Tulsa County, and really over in Wagner County, Lori Hendricks, fantastic. She
right. So I wanted to mention that for people because I just got through with this and I've been wanting to say it so others will know. I didn't even know this existed. Yeah. And I wanted to be sure to let everybody else know that that's the easiest, best and fastest way to transfer property from one person to another. Okay. All right. Listen, so I wanted to go to the Biden week before last, set a new record at the Radio City Music Hall with a fundraiser, $25 million. I
heard he had to have help. Was he the headliner?
No, he had Obama.
Okay.
Obama and
Willie Boy.
Yep. Slick Willie were there. They were there with him, and they stole the show. Yeah. But $25 million, which was a new record for a fundraiser
at the time.
But not to be outdone, the guy who drew, what was it, 30,000 at the ORU Stadium.
Yeah, let's go 30 inflation hits.
35,000 at the ORU Stadium.
Yeah.
Our friend and yours, Donald J. Trump.
Yeah.
He is expected to raise $43 million.
Oh, I thought it was 26.
No, it's $43 million.
Oh.
Yeah, $43 million.
Did you get your invite to Mar-a-Lago?
No.
No, I didn't either.
No, but but if he was 43, that'll put him up there real fast. I mean, that would get him in the ball game.
And the timing is right.
It is
because a number of the people that were funding, even Nikki Haley, are coming on board.
Yeah, well, I think they realize what shape we're in.
Yeah, and definitely, some of DeSantis funding people. Some of them jumped over to Haley.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, they're probably the quickest to come over.
Yeah, the ABT people. Yeah. Anybody but Trump. Yeah. But they're finally getting to the point. ABB, anybody but Biden.
Yeah.
Also, not to leave the Trump theme, he launched Truth Social.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Truth Social was launched a couple of weeks ago.
Well,
it was actually not this week, last week.
It went public.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Well, True Social as a website is a couple of years old.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
That's what he's good for.
Yeah.
Correcting me. He's like my editor.
Hey,
I need it.
He's not here. Somebody's got to do it.
Well, that's true. She'd be worse than you. Trust me. She would be worse. No, yes. So yeah, Truth Social as a publicly traded company was launched here last week. So it started out as high as, started at $63 a share is when it hit the public. Okay. It rose up to $75. Mm-hmm. And they were, and then Donald himself ended up with 60 some billion. No, I'm sorry. 6
billion, I think.
I feel like Dr. Evil. Yeah. I think we talked about this last week. Yeah. 6 billion was his net worth at that time. Well, the Hallelujah choruses were sang at MSNBC this week and all those places, CNN and everybody reveling. And they couldn't say enough that it's fallen. Is how the mighty have fallen because it's come back down. But in reality, it's only fallen. I say only, it's quite a bit, but it's fallen to $42. $42 a share is what it actually fell down to 41, but it's come back up a bit. Okay. So now here's the deal. All right. And I want to tell you, if you're interested in investing and supporting our president, when I say our president, the guy we support, here's how you can do it. Here's a real simple way of doing this. And you might actually make a little money as well. Now, I'm not guaranteeing anything or anything like that. I'm just saying this is a way of supporting and possibly making some money as well. Go to Charles Schwab, which is a broker, okay? You should do this anyway for yourself, especially if you're young. If you're younger, do this. Sign up with Charles Schwab and then open a trading account, okay?
Yeah.
You will become a stock trader. Now, you might wonder, well, I don't have any money. I'm not a big time guy. No, you don't have to be. There's a new thing called slices, stock slices. You can buy slices of stock.
Yeah.
And you can buy slices for as little as $5. So what you do, you open your account, and then once it gets established, then you can buy slices of Truth Social for $5.
Yep.
A slice. And you can do it monthly. You can do $5, $10, $20, $25 at $5 increments. You can do that. And it will be a way of buying the stock and supporting the president. And you can do this all the way through November, December. If you're buying in now, say at $42, and it rises to $80, $84, let's say, you have doubled your money. Okay?
Yep.
That's how it works. And the more people that get behind it, the higher the stock goes, and it's a poke in the eye of the left. Tell others about this. This is how we can defeat them, because the more money that Truth Social makes, the stronger it becomes as a platform, the stronger Donald J. Trump becomes, the stronger we become. We need to show them that we can play the game they do. We can make Truth Social rival Facebook and other media outlets. And if we can get Truth Social to break $100, they will be shaking in their boots. Okay. Yep. So anyway, I'm just giving you an example of how we can fight legally. And here's the other thing. You don't even have to report these as political donations. Yeah. This is an investment. Okay.
I just did a comparison. MSNBC's been, heckling, right?
Right.
Comcast, NBC Universal, that's the parent corporation,
Right.
NBC.
Right.
Their stocks are worth about half what they were 2 years ago. Okay. All right. Suck on that. But, because we can all play this game. Now, here's the other thing I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eddie, I'm sure you will, is if a stock price is completely relative, they can split their stocks, dropping the value in half, but doubling the number.
Right.
Okay.
So you have the same amount of money. But
it's the overall monetization of a corporation that's the real value.
Right.
And like, for instance, what's his name from Omaha?
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway. Last I checked, which is ages ago, one stock cost over $2,000.
One share. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one share of stock costs over $2,000. That was years ago.
Right.
I don't know what they do. And Warren was asked about it, and he said, I really want to keep it like that because I only want serious people, not dabblers.
Right. He didn't split his.
Mm-hmm.
There are stocks that are over $10,000, $20,000 a share. So only the ultra rich can own those.
Yeah.
Now those shares may increase 1,000, 2,000 a day, where it's all relative. They grow by percentages. So if you have $100 share stock, you may grow $10, $20, or lose $10 or $20. A $2,000 one of his may grow 20 to 50, and then you have a $10,000 a share stock that may grow 500 to 1,000 in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all based on percentages.
Yes.
And who's in there? Now if it's a $10,000 a share stock, most of those people have been in there for years and years, and those usually are trust funds and the wealthy that have had their inheritance money put into those, and those are legacy funds that have built into those.
But Eddie, you're involved in an industry which is probably the biggest player, one of the biggest players in the stock market, and that's insurance companies.
Yeah.
Because they will take their money that they're holding to cover claims, let's say life insurance and that. And while they have the money, they're going to invest it. And they're not, amateurs.
Right.
Right. So, and then aren't there some insurance products that you're kind of looking at? I don't know if the whole life is one of those.
Yeah. And this is a great time to talk about that. I never think about that. Yeah. There's a thing called infinite banking.
Yeah.
You may have heard of it.
My daughter was talking to me about it, and I came and asked you on her behalf.
Yeah. Infinite banking. And, it's a great deal. The younger you are, the better and easier it is to get into. Now, as an older person like myself, okay, I have grandchildren. Mm-hmm. Well, let me use an example of people who have done this.
Okay.
Ray Kroc.
Yeah.
McDonald's.
Gotcha.
Joseph Kennedy, the patriarch of the Kennedy family.
Mm-hmm. The bootlegger. Jimmy Hoffa called him a bootlegger.
Yeah, did you know they still, from what I've heard, they get a nickel on every bottle of scotch that's sold?
How about that?
Can you imagine?
The Kennedys?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, perpetually, forever.
Wow.
Well, anyway, but so the way it works, you take out a whole life policy, or nowadays you can use an universal life policy, and they pay dividends on the money that's in there.
Yeah.
And say it's a 6%. Mm-hmm. So now, sadly, the government, Uncle Sam always comes in and ruins it, but they limit the amount that you can put in there, because that money, as it grows, it's tax deferred. You don't pay tax. Actually, it's tax free because it's not even deferred like an annuity. Yeah. But so let's say you take out a $100,000 policy, and you you pay in $10,000 at one time. All right. And so with the $10,000, you're growing then at $600 with 6% interest. You're growing $600 a year. Okay. So, and let's say you put in 10,000 and then the next year you put in another 10 and next year you put in another 10, you know. So what happens, that money keeps growing. And so say it's you had $100,000 policy, but you've built up cash. Well, the policy is going to keep growing because you got the death benefit, but the death benefit keeps growing as well as the cash. Now, here's the key. You can borrow that money. So let's say now you've got the cash value now. You've put in 5 years, you've got 50,000, well, plus the interest. So you've probably got about $60,000 in cash.
Yeah.
You want to go buy a car.
Yeah.
So you borrow 40,000 from your own policy.
Yeah.
When you pay it back, you borrow. Remember, you're borrowing. So you borrow your own money. So instead of paying the bank, you're paying yourself. You're still earning the 6% on the full amount because they don't recognize that it's gone.
Yeah.
So you're still paying, you're getting the interest on the full 50,000 that's in there, plus you're paying it back and you want to pay yourself back and the interest rate you're paying is 4%.
Yeah.
So you may want to pay yourself 6%. Now you're earning 12%, even though you're being charged 4%.
Yeah.
And as you pay it back, so when you pay it back, you're actually not paying back the 40,000. You're actually paying back 50,000, and that 50 plus the 50 was in there is earning interest. So by the time you get it paid back, now you've got 75,000 in there. I mean, I'm just saying, and this as they keep rolling, and you keep borrowing you become your own bank. Basically, it's hard to explain here quickly.
This might be simpler. Rush Limbaugh talked about it. If you've got, say, money in a CD that is tied up, it's called a certificate of deposit, and it has a certain number of months, has to be in there. Let's say it's a 5-year CD that gets a nice interest rate because that money the bank knows is going to stay there. If you take it out early, you can, but there are penalties and a loss of interest. But Rush Limbaugh was talking about one day, it's probably 25 years ago. He says, no, you don't take the money out. You put it up as collateral, leave it in there, but borrow using it as collateral. The banker sees that, okay, you got that. Yeah, we'll go ahead and give you a loan knowing we can tap that. They don't withdraw it, but they could tap it if they needed to.
Yeah, you don't want to do that, though.
I'm not saying you want to, but that's a simple way of avoiding the penalties of withdrawing early.
Right, but you're not getting any penalty when you use life insurance.
Exactly. It's what you're talking about. You understand it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
That's what I'm saying. This is not the best play.
But I did understand the Rush Limbaugh scenario.
Right. Where
rather than drawing the money out, let's say a 401k or, a Roth or something like that, where you just say, hey, can I use this as collateral?
Right.
Where you can tap into it if I default on this loan. And that way it still stays tucked away there. No penalties, no loss of interest.
But they're two different animals. They're totally unrelated. CDs are paying like 1 or 2%.
Yes.
This is paying 6%.
I agree.
And this is tax deferred.
Yeah.
CD is not.
I'm only throwing that out there for people to start to get the concept of, rather than cashing out your life insurance, you don't want to do a whole.
No, because here's the thing. Let's say you've got the $100,000 policy, but you borrow out $70,000. All they're going to do is take the 70, you're still getting, if you pass away in the midst while you're paying it off, they're still going to pay the 100,000. They're just going to deduct whatever amount you have out.
Right.
It's still the 100,000 is there.
Yeah.
Plus you've used the cash.
Mhm.
So as you pay it back and it goes up and up and up, you may have 200, it may build up to 300, whatever. And the higher it builds, the more you can borrow. And you pass away, the entire death benefit goes to your survivors.
Yeah, because for the insurance company, the risk is very little because they just won't cut you a check if you die for the whole. They'll first take out what they are owed that got left unrepaid.
Right. Exactly.
But so you become a low risk, which gives you some of the best rates. And you don't get the penalties. You don't, I mean, you just don't ever want to.
Yeah, you just become your own banker.
Yes, using as collateral. The one thing is you have to have some assets in there.
Well, it's what you put in. Yeah, it's what you put in, and you can do it. You don't have to do it in a lump sum. Let's say you take a $100,000 policy, and you always have a minimum amount you can pay in, but you can overfund it.
Yeah.
So instead of $100 a month, you put in $300 a month and build it up, and then after so many years, you have this fund, and then you start borrowing, paying it back and build. But I don't want to get into insurance talk because that's not what.
Right. How do we get off on that? I forget.
I don't know. You asked me something and we talked about it, but we were talking about Warren Buffett and the stock price of Truth Social. We went from Truth Social to talking about infinite banking.
Yeah, I just think that, if you're NBC, look, you live in a glass house, you shouldn't be throwing stones at Trump, okay?
Yeah, exactly. No, you do not want to do that.
Yeah.
No. Hey, one other thing I want to talk about Biden here real quick. He's reviving, when are people going to wake up to the pandering, meandering and lying and conniving and weasel mouthed of the Democrat Party and Biden and Obama administration? He's reviving the student loan deferral thing again. Not deferral, but loan forgiveness thing again. Yep. He's got a new forthcoming attempt at a sweeping debt cancellation. As polling shows, he's struggling with younger voters. I think younger voters, here's the beauty. I think younger voters say, Joe, we're tired of your BS. I don't think this is, because I think they realized what he's doing and the Supreme Court's just going to come down on him again. He wants to, again, promised this loan forgiveness, and the courts have stricken him down once again, and they keep doing it, but they won't give up. He keeps trying to do it.
I don't think he's doing as much for the college kids as for the university faculty and presidents and professors. Because I think they are in big trouble. They have oversold and under-delivered when it comes to the value of higher ed in the marketplace. A college degree is meaning less and less and less all the time.
Well, yeah, but they keep jacking up their prices. That's
exactly.
I just saw yesterday. Where was it? Columbia, $90,000 a year. $90,000 to go to Columbia? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, and the kids are getting out of college with this degree and wondering why nobody wants to hire them at more than entry level stuff that their friends who skipped college are making more than that now.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shell game that he's just trying to prop up for a little while longer. Because I think it's all come crashing down. I think there are a lot of things that are crashing down right now. We don't see it, like the Chinese economy. Like so many things. You and I have a lot of respect for Elon Musk, but he signaled something a few months ago, actually last December, talking to Joe Rogan. It's what he didn't say. I think he's in trouble, not so much because he doesn't have a good product with Tesla, but all these horrible products from GM and Ford and all these other people couldn't make an electric car for nothing. And the whole concept is taking a hit. Ford just announced that, well, they just laid off a bunch of people, but they said, we're making all of our cars to fit in Tesla's recharging station. Because for all the money that Biden put into having all these charging stations that the government's building, they only have 7 of them started. I think only 3 of them are online. And they're horrible compared to what Tesla's got.
Yeah,
it's the software.
And that's one of the problems. See, the government is so busy trying to destroy Tesla because of Elon's support of Trump or non-support of Biden. I might as well call him Biden. That they're destroying businesses right and left and themselves in their attempts of going so far left.
Yeah.
And I think Elon in the chess game is going to win in the long run.
Yeah.
As you said, if Ford, GM, and you name them are all starting to play the Tesla game in the long run. Same thing with SpaceX. I think SpaceX just launched a bunch of new. See, what people don't understand about Elon, it's not just Tesla where he makes his money. He's got SpaceX sending rockets, and the government right now, NASA does not have rockets.
They're paying him to send supplies to the space station.
And satellites.
But you think about it, Elon got front and center of renewable energies, right? Solar and wind. He got in front of electric vehicles. He just bought a social media thing, which the government's been propping up, Facebook, and giving them protections, right? Them, YouTube, all those. And all of a sudden he takes it over. And now, we got to protect him. They don't want to protect him.
No, they don't want to.
So it's the most brilliant coup.
Yeah.
But I have to say, the electric car, generically, is an anchor on Tesla now.
Yes. But when you compare all of the cars to Tesla, people still want a Tesla.
In the electronic vehicle.
In the electronic, right.
Yeah.
It's like Lexus. When it used to be Cadillac or Lincoln. Today, when you think luxury car, what's the first luxury car you think of?
I drive old beaters. I'm hardly the guy to ask.
It's a Lexus.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a Lexus. Now, to me, a Lexus is nothing but
it's a Toyota.
It's a Toyota
with bells and whistles.
Exactly. You pull the shell off. It's the same as my Camry sitting out there.
I went to work for his family back right when I came down here to go to college, and I had just sold my Volkswagen Beetle months before. And this wealthy kid, my age, he's driving a Porsche. And we get to talk, and he says, you know what bugs me is when I have to go buy parts, they end up being Volkswagen parts.
Yeah, it's a Volkswagen. A Porsche is a Volkswagen. That's exactly right. Yeah.
That's right. Were they built where you lived?
Yeah. People don't realize
Southern Germany.
Porsche is nothing but they make them in the same factory.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy, and they make 3 of them. What is it? Porsche, Volkswagen, and there's somebody else they make. But you're going to pay a lot more. In fact, one of the fastest cars is the old what we call a Golf. It was the Rabbit. Yes, it started out as a Rabbit, and the German version was the Golf. And finally, they. In America, we call it a Golf too. Yeah. I don't think they make them anymore here. No, but it used to scare me to death. People, I would get a ride in one, and the guy's just driving these things at 120 miles an hour. And I mean, in fact, because it has the same engine. has a Porsche, does, you know, in this
Their
boxy,
light body.
boxy, weird thing, and they're just flying in
Yep.
these things, and which is weird because I would feel totally safe in a Porsche, but in a Golf with the same engine, I don't feel as safe, you know. So, but yeah, but no, Lexus and SpaceX. And there's another one. There's another company. I can't remember.
Oh gosh, he does he has this boring company that, you know, does tunnel. They dig tunnels, but he's going to have government contracts on that. And right now he's working on a prototype underneath Los Angeles. You
know who I'm waiting on? Are you familiar with, what is it called? What are those goggles that Facebook has?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Meta goggles.
The VR. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they changed it, but the original name was something else. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the guy who developed, I was intrigued. I saw an interview with him, and then I bought the book, the audio book, and I was driving to Kansas, so I listened to the whole book up and back, and it was the most interesting book that I've listened to in 10 years. The guy's name is Palmer Luckey. You would think it'd be Lucky Palmer, but his name is Palmer. First name Palmer, last name Luckey. He started at 12 years old, and he wanted to make a virtual reality goggle. And he started making this thing. And his parents had an old trailer, a mobile home that was just sitting out. I mean, it's funny. I just picture somebody living like you'd see somewhere in rural Oklahoma, you know, poor family. But anyway.
That's our second house. You know, we have second houses. Yeah.
Anyway, and so he ended up living out there as a kid, 12, 13 years old. And he bought these, if you will remember, the Commodore 64 computer.
Oh, yes.
That's how long. So he has these Commodore 64, and he hooks these things up together, and he starts working on this thing. 12 years old, Dave, 12 years old, and he starts working on this thing. So by the time he's 16, he's got this prototype thing built, and he starts making contact to these people, and he goes to these, I can't remember what these big shows are, these showcases, you know, these trade shows.
Okay, yeah.
And they're these computer.
The electronics.
Electronic, right.
CES, yes, computer electronics show that's in Vegas every year.
Right.
That's the big granddaddy.
Right, and he goes and he meets these people, and he starts getting some investors involved on it. So by the time he's 19, he gets this thing developed. Oculus is the name.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He developed Oculus.
Yeah.
It's a 12-year-old kid. So by the time he's 19, he's got investors and all, and they finally come up with Oculus. And then finally they get the money from Facebook. And so Facebook basically joins with them and takes over and hires him and his people. They buy it, and he makes a couple of $1 million, and his people get hired. Well, his people, what happened, he's a big Trump supporter.
Foreboding.
Exactly. So Trump ends up, he's president. He's a big Trump supporter now. So Zuckerberg, they basically fire him from the company he developed. So he's out. His people stabbed him in the back, the ones who he hired and brought up with it. They stay there with Facebook, Oculus. And now there's no more Oculus. It's the Facebook VR. So the goggles you see advertised by Facebook, that was actually developed by this Palmer Luckey. Yeah. And it used to be Oculus.
They bought his patent and fired him.
Right. But the kid is so intelligent, so he's moved on to this thing called augmented reality, which I have no idea what the difference in virtual and augmented is. But anyway, so during the Trump administration, what he did, he developed this this virtual border fence. And they have these drones and these things where the Border Patrol can see miles and miles all at once with these drones and these fixed cameras and everything. And they can see and they can respond in a minute to these places. And he's working on it. I don't know what he's working on now. He's probably got something, 20 years in the future. He's that bright and intelligent of a guy. So don't feel sorry for him, because a genius like that, even though he was robbed of his one invention, he's probably got so much more in there. And he's still under 30 years old.
Jesus.
Yeah. I know. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Can I talk to you a little bit about what's going on in Nebraska? This is going to get a little involved, but I think it's important. So Charlie Kirk, a couple weeks ago, pointed out that, Nebraska has, I guess they have 4 electoral college votes, because the 2 senators and then 2 congressional seats. Because each electoral vote is by how many are in your delegation to the Congress, Senate, and House. But they said the 2 congressional district electors will cast their votes independent of who wins the state as a whole. There are 2 states that do this, Maine and Nebraska. And there's of the congressional districts, when you divide up Nebraska, you got Omaha Metro, and then you got the rest of the state in Nebraska. And the Republicans always win the rural vote, but Omaha's been going Democrat pretty consistently. So Charlie Kirk says, you know what? We really ought to do winner take all, just like 48 other states do, and make that Omaha district vote whoever wins the whole state. And they may go to special session in the legislature over it. There's a lot of passion for it, but I think there's a lot of stupidity in it. I generally have a philosophical view of more independence, because look, if we did this before electoral college and actually sent our congressmen to do the voting, like what happened with Adams and Jefferson, they would be voting independently. But when I ran Rick Santorum's campaign, I did some studying on states like Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, other than the one time Trump won it, has always gone Democrat. But it's really only 4 congressional districts that actually voted Democrat. The other dozen or so, or 14, voted Republican. But they voted so overwhelmingly Democrat in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh that they won the state as a whole, even though they lost 14 of the 18 congressional districts.
So you're saying nationally, if we did this, even California would give delegates to Republican votes, say up in Northern and Central California, which are more conservative, though in San Diego County down in there, which are more conservative,
Yes.
Orange County, you would get some votes for the Republic. I see, I got you.
My philosophical belief supports the idea of what Nebraska and Maine currently do.
Right.
Because it's more in line with our founders when they said each member of Congress casts a vote.
Right. But if Omaha is so large that it has 2 seats.
No, Omaha has 1. The rest is the other seat.
Oh,
the rest of the state.
3.
There's 2 congressional seats.
Oh, so they get 1 and they get 1.
Yeah, there's Omaha's metro and then outlying.
Okay, so Pennsylvania. So yeah, but if you have Pittsburgh and Philadelphia,
make up 4 congressional districts.
And then how many others are there in Pennsylvania?
I think 14 others.
So you're saying in those 10 out of those 14 generally?
No, I'm saying McCain won 14 of the 18 and still lost the state.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And Romney won, I think, 8 or 9.
How many did Trump win last time?
Well, he won the state as a whole in 16, lost it because Philly kept counting and kept shipping the ballots and counting some more.
Right. So even last time, he basically would have won the state, except for basically because it was Philadelphia again, where they kept counting and counting.
You remember the story of the mail truck driver?
Yeah.
That had, Well, all of a sudden he's got silent.
Yeah.
So I personally think that Charlie Kirk's looking at it backwards. He should really be pressuring the Pennsylvania legislature.
Right, to go the other way. I see what you're saying, right? Yeah, that would be a way. See, that would be a way to tell who really favors this if you start putting the pressure the other way, because then they would all of a sudden say, "Oh, whoa, wait a minute."
Yeah, Minnesota would be another one of those because it's just that Twin Cities metro area.
It's almost a reverse of the people who are trying to get rid of the Electoral College. Mm-hmm. It's actually going against the grain there because they want to get rid of the electoral and go purely on a popular vote where the major cities, the numbers. And see, let me add something to your deal now, because a lot of people, you see, Texas thinks they're really smart. These border states think the conservative ones think they're being smart by shipping all of these people to these blue states. But in the end, all they're doing is and I don't understand this. This is a good conversation for us to get into as well, Dave. Mm-hmm. Because, and I don't know why the courts and everybody's allowing this, but they're allowing the census to count illegal residents to be included in the census as your population for the elections. And so by shipping all of these people to New York, California, Colorado, Illinois, all of these places, it's increasing the electoral votes in all of those blue states.
The founders had a solution. The ones who were in citizen were counted as 3/5. Let's revisit Dred Scott.
Yeah. It's a little different from the original. No, they should not be counted at all.
Because that 3/5 in the Dred Scott, they were talking about the census, that your slaves were not counted as a whole.
It was a totally different situation.
Right.
Yeah, it was a totally.
They weren't even saying that these are not human beings.
Right.
They just said you cannot pump up your numbers.
Well, the Dred Scott situation was you cannot not count them as humans and then try to count them as citizens for the vote. Mm-hmm. Because what the Republicans tried to do at first, it said is, okay, if you're going to count them as citizens for vote and not count them as humans, and you want to count them as chattel, is what they were doing, chattel. Right. We're going to count our chattel, which is our cows and our sheep, which we have a whole lot more up north. Mm-hmm. We're going to count them. And then the Democrats said, oh, no, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. And that's when they came up with the compromise and came up with the 3/5 clause. Yeah,
and one of the proponents for national popular vote here in Oklahoma for a short period of time was David Tackett. He also later ran Gary Richardson's campaign for governor.
The insurance commissioner was another one. That was for that.
Okay, yeah, and he argued largely on this whole issue of, the illegal aliens, by them having sanctuary cities that they flock to, then they're getting more congressional representation because they're counted in the census, even though they're not legally residing here.
But see, that is where the real issue is. They should not be counted in the census.
Right.
Whoever allowed them to allow that is the ones that are doing us an injustice.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I argued back to David, he took me out to dinner. Thank you for the lunch at Genghis Grill, by the way. And it was that I said what we need to do is do what Nebraska and Maine do, and because he kept arguing they only go to a few swing states during the general election because that decides the whole thing. You'll never get them coming to Oklahoma, why would Trump waste his time in California, for instance, under the current political makeup? But he would go to Bakersfield if Kevin McCarthy's House seat got to vote for him.
Right.
Most of the interior of California is conservative.
Yeah.
And so that's my solution to both the what National Popular Vote claims to Republicans as why you would want to vote for it is because the illegal immigrant thing. So if you don't tie it to electoral college, you just take it one person, one vote, then it just matters purely who you give the right to vote to.
Yeah, my solution is more, if you're not a citizen, you don't vote. No other country on earth allows that.
And currently that's our law.
I know, but that needs to be changed. I don't know who made the law that way.
The problem is our census. Our census is giving more. If you're a, sanctuary city, you're more likely to get greater congressional representation.
Right. But when and who allowed that? Where in the Constitution is there not something in the Constitution that you've got to be a legal citizen?
I understand. Right now, it's whoever resides there during the month that they count census, which means Minnesota, because their snowbirds go to Florida. You wonder why Florida's census went up, or Arizona or Texas. That's part of it too, because they decide to do the counting in the dead of winter.
Well, that's good that we take it away from New York then.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of conservative areas that, they're taking a hit too.
Yeah.
So anyway, by the way, for years, I worked with a woman that this was her home, her and her husband. Her husband was in the insurance industry too. Summers, they had a lake in Wisconsin, in the summer, but she was counted as an Oklahoma resident because February, guess where she's at, so,
local news.
Yeah.
Statewide. Mm-hmm. You got anything there?
Yeah. A couple of things. Evidently.
How about the governor?
Yes. Governor Stitt, who's decrying the McCurt decision and everything. His brother is actually exploiting it to get out of a traffic
This is
ticket.
Beautiful. I love it. His brother actually looks like it's his twin brother.
I know, Keith. Yeah.
Are they twins or are they just close?
I know, but they got the same parents.
I have to tell you an interesting story. I was asked to MC the inaugural ball.
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't have me do a run through or, they just said, oh, you wait here and you go up, and then you gave me a thing.
Kind of like we did at his rally with Youngkin.
Yeah, but it was a little different. And so it was at the BOK Center.
Okay.
So I'm on stage and I don't know, everybody was coming from this side. And I know I'm waiting for the governor. I'm supposed to introduce the governor. And so I looked down on the front table, and there I see the governor, only he looked different. He had a beard. He had a beard and everything. Mm-hmm. And he's sitting there. So I assume, okay, he's coming from there. And I'm looking, and I'm kind of thrown. And then finally, I happened to turn around, and there's the governor and his wife behind me, and there was this strange pause. It was just weird, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they were thinking, well, what was he? But it was
You shaved.
Well, yeah, it was his brother.
Yeah.
I was looking at. I didn't even know he had a brother.
Yeah.
And if somebody told me that he's coming from, because instead of this side, he came from this side. It just totally threw me. But it was weird because I'm looking out there, and I'm looking at the governor. I said, man, when did he grow those lamb chops? You know, it was a weird. But anyway.
So as soon as McGirt ruling hit, that was in the summer of 20.
Yeah.
The first thing I was concerned is, do I still own my house? Because it's Muskogee
Creek.
Yeah. At that time they call themselves the Creek Tribe. Ends up, that's the only thing that's unaffected is private property.
Well, let's tell the story of what happened with the governor's brother.
So, yeah, he's driving his fancy, I think it's a Range Rover or something, you know, speeding through Tulsa. And he gets clocked and caught for speeding by the Tulsa Police Department. And now he is suing.
Got a lawyer and everything.
Yes, in federal court, saying that Tulsa has no jurisdiction. That was a thing I warned about. And it has been true. You know, it's a funny thing. I remember when we used to be at Tulsa was run by a city commission, not a city council.
Yeah, the commissioners.
And then Bob Dick and I forget who, Roger Randall had this idea of let's change. Actually, there was a lawsuit by the NAACP claiming that there is not proper representation because all of these commission seats were citywide. There was the water and sewer commissioner, the police and fire.
Even though, as I understand, they had a black commissioner. I can't remember his name or which commission, but there was actually a black commissioner.
But Roger Randall, Democrat, knuckled under, and Bob Dick, a Republican, who had been our chief of police, and then police and fire commissioner. And they, you know, it was a Valentine's Day of '91. Is for the love of Tulsa, had this big heart, you know, and he shows up.
Another Valentine's Day massacre.
Yes. And the crazy thing is, you dissolve the city and establish a new charter. Now, why does this play in? Because before statehood, when we were a territory, we signed with the tribes that had, you know, tribal property here, the rights of the police department of the then city of Tulsa to have jurisdiction to enforce the laws. Mm-hmm. That was in like 1905. Well, when you recharter the city, you have to go back and redo all those treaties and compacts that you did. And they never did. And so what happened here is Steve Kunzweiler, our district attorney, assumes that it's clear that we signed. But that wasn't the city of Tulsa that exists today, murdered in 91. And so all of a sudden, no, don't, that it's null and void. All those compacts, all those treaties, all those, you know, understandings are gone. So that's the problem right now. If you're a tribal member, not only do you get to, in many cases, drive free on the turnpikes, you don't have to pay speeding tickets unless a light horseman from the tribal government decides, no, we're going to make it. And, you know, guy who sat here a month ago, Mark Wayne Mullen, said, look, the tribal members where I live way over on the eastern border, we're fed up with this because you aren't getting protection of even tribal members because the courts are overwhelmed. The light horsemen are overwhelmed. If they're the only ones going to protect, you know, safety and tranquility, there isn't enough. Mm-hmm. And, you know, my son-in-law sat on a jury this last summer that was a retrial of somebody who had been convicted and sent away to prison for child abuse, only to have it undone and redone. You know, it's just overwhelming. Oh, and the judge in that case judges to handle all of the backlog. It's a mess. And so Governor Stitt, and you read the article where he just kind of laughs it off.
Yeah, because he's been accused of putting his brother up to this. They're governor putting his brother up to this to make a point of how crazy this interpretation of the law is.
Yeah, and I don't see it, because I think what his brother's trying to do is actually opposing the governor.
Yeah, well, yeah, but they're trying. Yeah, but they're, the other side, the Stitt haters.
Yes,
the anti-Stitters.
They have to pick a side, and they don't want to.
Yeah, the anti-Stitters instead of anti-Trumpers. The anti-Stitters.
Yes,
are they gotta say something because they're mad because it's his brother.
Yeah.
So, but in doing so, they're actually making his case for him.
Yeah,
they're actually bringing it out into the public instead of quietly letting this go away.
Yeah, it's Stitt versus Stitt right now. So
Stitt v. Stitt, yeah.
So that's going on, and right now it's all pretrial briefs and stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting though. It's kind of fun because you got the state's attorney saying no, this doesn't apply to that, and of course, Stitt's attorney saying yes, it pass works here. So it'll be an interesting file. And the governor said he's actually just laughing at it. I mean, he thinks it's because in a way he's saying, it's my brother, but I told you, I tried to tell you, this is gonna, and if it weren't for it being his brother, again, it wouldn't even make the papers. In fact, I'm sure there's a bunch of these cases going on. This just happens to be because it's his brother and they hate him so much.
Right.
They want to make a case out of it. Oh, his brother, this and that. But it's really working against them to show how stupid the law is.
Right. So another problem that's created by Gorsuch and his allies on the left, Ashley in here, and we're talking about the embezzlement of $1 million from Tulsa public school system. And the guy who is just caught red-handed, basically, ran to federal courts to plead guilty. He hasn't been sentenced yet. But the last time I saw somebody run to federal court saying, find me guilty, was Senator Rick Brinkley. And he got a small fraction in federal courts of the sentence that state courts would have been. And why do I know this? Because the former election board secretary, the day I first signed up to vote in Oklahoma after getting married, he handled it. And that guy went to prison for 7 years for what was a questionable $16,000. 7 years for $16,000. 1.8 million and gets less. That shows the iniquity between federal sentencing and state. Why is this important? Because if you're a tribal member, it's only federal sentencing you have to worry about, not state. And in many things, our state is much more harsh.
Yeah.
So that's the inequity. And see, to me, there ought to be a class action lawsuit because on 14th Amendment ground, equal protection of our rights. You don't punish people differently because of their tribal membership, their ethnicity, or their political subdivision.
That's true. No, you're exactly right. By the way, going back to the whole school board situation, that election occurred here. What was it?
Oh gosh,
2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
And our guest did not win.
Yeah.
And there was a re-election, and John Croissant was reelected handedly. But and it's it's too bad. I've known him since he was like 14, 15 years old. He played soccer. His brother played with my son on the same team. And I know the family and everything. And they're not a bad family. But, you know, they've just grown up. And I guess he was a school teacher. He comes out of that background. And he plays that game.
Yep.
And it's just too bad. And I really, maybe I'll get somebody when they would just do a video. I don't understand why people aren't looking. And of course, school board elections are always at weird times.
Oh, yeah.
Always at weird time. I mean, who was paying attention a couple of weeks ago? Who even knew?
Yeah, it totally surprised me.
Yeah. So, and so, of course, they give the teachers time off. The staff gets time off. Their families, of course, go and vote, you know, and they tell them who to vote for ahead of time and all of these things. Everybody else doesn't know they're working or whatever. I mean, it's a stacked thing. Something needs to change.
Yeah.
Something needs to change. And maybe that's something you and I can work on and get a group of people to work on it to start making changes. We've got to work smarter, not harder, but smarter, and to find out where these things are being crafted and how we uncraft them.
Yeah. I think the best thing that could help Elena is to have a posse of people who show up and sit in on the school board meetings, and then they can all go down to Brahms or wherever afterwards and have an ice cream or whatever, coffee, tea, and just talk about it and stay engaged and activate and disseminate information back out. But you need that posse on the right. We have it at the legislature. We have it, you know, in other initiatives of government, but we don't have it in the school board.
Yeah, but also we need to start like the mail campaigns, these push cards and things. No, we need letters that actually do facts. And they don't have to be hard.
Yeah.
You know, do you know this? Just ask questions. You know, do you know this? Do you know this? And then just simple answer right on the back. Just a simple answer.
Yep.
You know. Hey,
predictions. Final four. You following it?
South Carolina. I'm talking. I was surprised that I was still in it. The Great White Hope.
Caitlin Clark.
No, I love Caitlin. I found out about her last year. But the whole team, I mean, the whole team is really, really, really something else that they just, it's funny because I was watching ESPN last night, and every announcer, it's how far it's total reversal. Every announcer for the game, the sideline reporters, the pundits, the panel, they're all black women. Yeah. No guys and no Caucasians. Yeah. Everyone is black.
Well, men aren't qualified to speak to women's sports.
And I guess white women aren't even either. So it's kind of funny. Now, the one thing that I do have to give them credit for, though, is they're very intelligent. They're very good, well-spoken, and they're very
the commentators. Yeah,
and they're very what would you say? They're very actually, though, the guys who were calling the game call was a guy and then a lady. So I do have to take that back. But the ones they talked during the break, the ones that the pundits, it was all black women there. But it's really interesting that Iowa, they've got so much heart. The whole team.
Iowa State.
No, it's Iowa. It's Iowa. University of Iowa is the ones that are,
that's right. Yeah.
Anyway, they beat LSU in the Elite Eight, and then in the Final Four, they just beat Connecticut, UConn, who was expected to beat them. And my heart goes out to my daughter-in-law, who's an alum of University of Connecticut, and her mother is a huge fan of UConn. But and there's a controversial call at the end.
Just always.
I know. But to the credit, I mean, this really speaks well to the UConn girls that their star player at the end says, we're not going to use that as an excuse. We should have won. We didn't do enough to win, and we should have never been in that position. It was a blocking foul. This girl was going around, and this girl, it was a pick, and she put her hand out and blocked, and it was a foul, and they lost the ball when they could have had the shot that would have won it.
Yep.
They only lost by, I think it was by 2 points, and they could have either tied it but anyway. But now, South Carolina is a different animal. Or should I say animals? Man, they're good. They're undefeated. You know, they have an undefeated season. They have not lost a game the entire season or in the playoffs. So we will see if Caitlin can do her magic once again.
Now, South Carolina, they're in the ACC, right?
No. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, South Carolina is ACC, right?
Right. And they were up against
No. South Carolina is SEC.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. South Carolina.
Most of the
SEC.
Carolina schools are ACC except one.
Them, right? They beat NC State, who is ACC.
Is ACC,
right. Yeah.
And okay, that all makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. The crazy thing for me is, I mean, the way you and I were just gloating about the reemergence of the Big 12, and I wait till basketball comes, and we were looking good on the Selection Sunday, but then we underperformed, and
Houston's the only one left, right?
Yeah.
Only dog in the show.
Yeah.
We can only hope that they can pull it off.
And because, Connecticut was smelling that rare thing of winning both the men's and women's, and the women are gone now.
The women are gone.
And we'll see if the guys survive. So what have we got in the men's today? Is it Connecticut and Houston?
I'll be honest, I really have not been following the girls.
But you got North Carolina State is still
just amazed that these girls, if there's anything, any sport where I am impressed by women being equal to men, it's basketball. It's the only sport that I think women are now, not in physicality, inside, in a total game, no. But when it comes, Clark is throwing a 3-pointer up from half court and it hit, and I just wow. And she's not the only one. In fact, her friend, the star player from UConn, they've been friends since they were, I think, 12 or 13. They've been playing on AAU teams, and that's another thing you find out, that these are not overnight sensations. These boys or girls, they all start very young, and they've been handpicked and pulled out and playing on AAU teams, amateur athletic squads, growing up, which would be our version of semi-pro.
Yeah.
Europe has their youth clubs. America we have our version of it now, the AAU leagues. And so these girls have all been moving up, and they see each other later on in play.
Yeah, off season they might have been teammates on pickup games.
Well, and in all-star teams.
Yeah. In
fact, Caitlin and this girl from UConn were teammates somewhere on some different teams, and they're very, very close. They're very good friends.
So here's what you got: Alabama's
in the Final Four.
Pride of the SEC. Yep. They are up against UConn.
The pride of the SEC. That's funny.
But that's all they got left is. And then the ACC's NC State. Now they're an 11 seed in the Final Four.
They said they're a little surprised that they made it.
They came on in February, started putting it together. And then they ran the table at the tournament, the ACC tournament.
So they play Houston, NC State.
Wait a minute here. No. Houston, Houston's not in it. I'm sorry. You got NC State against Purdue.
Purdue.
No, wait a minute. Yeah.
So Houston's got eliminated. So
Yes.
Big 12 has nobody.
Yeah.
Oh,
Man. So anyway, yeah. So Duke beat Houston, and then Duke lost to NC State. So
Duke's gone too.
Duke, yeah. Duke knocked off Houston,
right.
and then NC State knocked off Duke, which was a rematch because they're both ACC.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, and of course,
Wow.
North Carolina put on a run at the end.
Yeah.
But it was North Carolina State.
So who is it? I mean,
so you got the Big Ten, Purdue, the ACC, NC State, and then you've got the Big East, which is Connecticut, and then the SEC, Alabama. So you got 4 conferences represented.
Wow. So the only team in there of that is a typical one that has been in there before.
Mm-hmm.
Or recently is UConn.
UConn, yeah.
Because none of the others have been there in a while.
They've underperformed. Purdue has been a presence. Alabama's been a presence.
Yeah, but I've never seen them in the Final Four.
Right. You're right. That's the thing. Purdue's finally now, stepping it up and being consistent. And they dominated the Big Ten this year, start to finish.
Right.
Everybody picked them.
Well, I'm picking UConn then.
Yeah. My heart kind of wants to go North Carolina State. Just the Cinderella factor, because I don't care about any of the rest.
Let me see. You got UConn, Alabama, North Carolina State, and who's that? Purdue.
Mm-hmm. Plus, I'm still salivating to see the ACC fold up. Because Florida State is not going to put up with it. But what you need is enough strong schools
to pull out
and collapse it. And Duke can do that. Virginia can do it. And North Carolina.
Yeah, Duke and North Carolina.
North Carolina. I'm sorry. Done. I said Virginia. I meant North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina and Duke are gone. It's over.
But, North Carolina State, the last time, wasn't it Valvano coached them way back in the early 80s? Yeah. And then from your old stomping grounds, who was that guy from Villanova? Won it the next year. And,
I forget his name. Yeah, I know.
I remember.
I can see him. I can picture him, but
I remember about 3 years in a row, there's different schools that were kind of Cinderellas, and then Billy Tubbs takes Oklahoma to the championship game, and at a press conference before they said, we've had 3 different schools come surprisingly out of nowhere and win. And they named Villanova and NC State. And she says, what do you attribute that to? And Billy Tubbs says, Italian coaches. Because they're all Italian guys.
Italian coaches. Oh, my goodness.
I think of McGuire. McGuire's actually, I guess, supposed to be half Italian.
Really?
Yeah.
With an Irish name.
Yeah. So, right. But, he was with Marquette, which came out of nowhere to win one of those years. So, it's just, I like the energy of basketball because a team can get on a run and make history. Yeah. And it's just so fun to watch the passion of it.
Well, the next thing we have to look forward to, I'm already looking beyond the Final Four here.
Yeah.
The next thing we have to look forward to is the NFL draft. The shenanigans and things going on there. So, will Caleb Williams go to Chicago? It looks like it. It looks like he's going there because they got rid of their last number 1 draft choice. So, I guess he's going to Chicago. Mm-hmm. I'm just amazed at how everybody is so enamored with this Duke quarterback. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback, personally. I mean, he may be good, but I don't think he's the second best quarterback in the country. I think there's a few others up there that are better than him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pick him as a number 2 guy.
Yeah. Do you hear who Atlanta picked up?
As a
quarterback. They just took Kirk Cousins from Minnesota Vikings.
Really?
They gave him a $180 million
For how
deal.
many years? 3 years?
4 years.
4 years?
And it includes a $50 million signing bonus. That's cash up front.
Right.
Just
out of
that's
the
not-
180.
Yes, out of the 180. But I mean, that's money up front that even if you get injured in preseason,
Right.
you're locked in. That
Right.
50.
Yeah, he's got his 50.
So, and that's all you can count on anymore. Because they'll waive you any
and
moment.
I'd rather have 50 in Atlanta than I would in Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but
of course, you being from Minnesota,
yeah,
you probably prefer to live up there. I mean, you know the area. I don't know. To me, I just think of cold tundra.
It would be more money if it was in Florida because it would be no state tax.
Yeah, but you pay for it in other ways. It's expensive in Florida.
I understand that.
I'd like to live in Florida myself, but actually, I'll tell you the way to do Florida.
Yeah.
You buy and you live just east of Mobile, Alabama, between Mobile and Pensacola, just right, before the border of Florida.
Yeah.
So you got the Gulf life, but you're not paying, you're still paying Alabama taxes, but you're not paying the high Florida expenses. Yeah.
LeBron James, when he left Cleveland the first time, that's kind of where he made a name. And the bidding war started. I remember Rush Limbaugh said, he's going to go to Florida.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he said, there's no state taxes. If you're paying 10% state tax on your multi-million-dollar a year income, that's real money.
Well, let me tell you who was smart. The little running back from the Raiders from Tulsa, the one that shocked everybody. He ended up in Alabama. You know that story?
See the one that bought his dad a house? He grew up homeless.
Yeah, they lived in the back of his Explorer or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he went to McLean.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Nobody even heard of the kid.
Yeah.
So the way it happened, the McLean coach happened to send a video to Nick Saban.
Yep.
So Nick had him come to Alabama, and he ends up in Alabama, and his senior year just did great. And so the Raiders drafted him, and he's Josh Jacobs. So when he was a senior, his rookie year, they signed him on this rookie contract for I don't know, it was first round, I think $15 million was his signing bonus. And his regular salary is less than $100,000. Less than $1 million.
Yeah, $900,000 I think is the minimum wage.
Right, and so what he did, because it was California and the taxes, he deferred his signing bonus because he knew they were moving to Las Vegas, and Nevada has no state tax. So he says, "I don't want my signing bonus. I want you to hold it till next year." So he took his $900,000 salary that year and paid his California taxes, state taxes. And then the next year when he moved to Vegas, that's when he got his $15 million and paid no state taxes in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
You talk about a smart kid. The
smartest thing he did was get a tax advisor to coach him on that.
Well, but again, I don't care who did it, but that was a smart move.
Sure.
He paid no California tax. He just got his $15 million the next year. And he said, I don't need it. I'll wait a year. And by that time, he probably was smart enough to know what he wanted, what was really smart, got other advice on what to do. He's such a good kid. I've never seen a nicer story of somebody who deserved to do well. A homeless kid out of North Tulsa, just making it big time. In McLean High School. Just a wonderful story.
A mutual friend of ours, David Fowler, stresses the importance of having a father figure in your life.
Yeah.
And this kid, Jacobs, loved his dad. His dad had nothing but devotion for his kids.
Worked hard. Hardworking, just didn't have money.
Yep.
I mean, I think by the time he got drafted, I think his dad they were living in an apartment or a house or something.
Sure.
But there was a time with him because I think he had like 5 siblings or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, to me, you look at the education of our inner cities and you could blame the schools a lot. You got to start looking at families too. How intact are these families? What is culture's blame? Because to me, it's easy to just blame the schools because the kids aren't getting as good of grades.
Right.
And believe me, there's a lot of blame to be had.
Yeah.
But it just, if I was going to be a teacher again, like I was right out of college, I would want to teach an environment where the parents are just as committed as I am as a teacher.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And keep in mind where I taught, the parents gave me permission to paddle their kids. That's how committed the families were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
but again, the beauty of the Jacob story too, additionally, is the fact that he didn't come out of Booker T.
Yes.
That he came out of McLean.
Well, there's something to be said for playing time. I had a friend that played for Broken Arrow and got hurt his junior year. And you're not supposed to lose your spot due to injuries. But sure enough, his replacement kept the spot and he sat on the bench the whole senior year. He said, I know I could have got a college scholarship if I could have got high school playing time. And so sometimes you're better off getting more playing time at a school that's struggling.
Right.
Than to fight to be 5th on the roster hierarchy at some all-star school.
Yeah. No,
that's I believe. But again, you got to celebrate fatherhood. I mean, you talk about your dad all the time, the presence he was in your life, and I'm the same way too in that. And, the best gift a parent can give their kids is devote himself to them selflessly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not even Father's Day and we're on this issue.
We'll have to revisit it.
Yeah.
Do a special.
All right. Sorry, no Babylon Bee today.
No Babylon BS.
Why are you so deplorable?
Because I support Donald J. Trump.
This is a spin-off of Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables.
I'm at the top of the basket.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a Trump shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Right. I think we have exhausted our time for today, for this week. Hey, seriously, if you want to support the Truth Social and our future and past President Trump, then, as I said, a simple way to do it is to get you a Charles Schwab account and just start giving $5 a month, 5, 10, 50, whatever you can give. And it pays off in 2 ways. It'll pay off by supporting the president and also by seeing the value of that stock go up.
So by investing in this to buy slices of shares, you can actually help Trump's financials, which largely helps his.
Right, because it allows him then because he is self-funding a lot of his own campaign.
Right. Or if you want to support Robert Kennedy, go buy some scotch.
That too.
I mean, you said earlier that the Kennedy family still makes money.
That's true. Yeah, every bottle of
So you winos and the
Scotchos,
are
Scotches.
You are Kennedy supporters and didn't know it. You need more credit for what you're doing.
That's a slick deal. Boy, that Joe Kennedy, and Joseph Kennedy's another one who set up these accounts for his boys. These infinite banking I was talking about.
Yes,
buying life insurance on the kids and grandkids. Yeah, that's
each of his kids had $1 million trust fund set up for them that they would get when they turned 21.
Right, but what he did also was through this infinite banking. He set those up, and then would fund it, with the trust fund, or fund the trust fund with the holdings and these things. And
the quote I got is attributed to Bobby.
Really smart people. I hope to come have a slice of the pie.
Bobby Kennedy Sr., the former Attorney General, said, when explaining why he had this trust fund, he says, my dad wanted each of his kids when we were 21 to be able to tell them to go to hell. He wanted us to be independent and wanted us to have the financial independence to make our own decisions, but they're still getting the residuals from every bottle of scotch.
It's amazing to me that he turned out like he is. What I respect about him, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I don't believe in the COVID vaccines at all.
Yeah.
I want that understood. And I'm not for mRNA vaccines of any kind. I did get that new one. I can't remember what it's called. It's the one that has all of the regular vaccines into one.
Oh.
Instead of the flu shot.
Kind of like a multivitamin, except it's a multi.
It's this year, instead of the flu shot, it's the one that covers the various viruses and all. And I have to say it worked, but I get a flu shot every year. Let me put it that way. Gotcha. And of course, I have my scar from my smallpox.
Yes. Yeah.
It's funny, I think we talked about the girls, they put it on their butts. They put it on the girls' butts because they didn't want the girls to have this weird dot.
Not my school.
Really?
My mom, actually, you can see it on her shoulder.
Yeah. Well, where I went, they put it on the girl. They put the girls in a room and they put it on their butts, so the girls didn't have to have that scar on their arms. They were more thoughtful.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I have all of those. Vaccines.
Yeah, and this is the tricky thing about how they can, if you don't buy 100% the narrative of, government, the NIH, you're an anti-vaxxer. Bobby Kennedy has said, look, I get vaccinated. I do all the, because I don't totally blindly accept everything. I'm an anti-vaxxer. My family doctor, I mentioned, you're about to hear some more things because Bobby Kennedy's running for president. He says, that nut. I can't believe he's such an anti-vaxxer, And I thought, okay, you just told me more about you than you told me about Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it's funny how he is not just an outcast from the Democrat Party, he's an outcast from his family. His cousin Caroline, and then her kids, Caroline's son. Oh, he's just a jerk. I mean, that guy is just an idiot. He comes out it's disgusting the way he talks about his uncle.
Well, there were a lot of jerks in the Kennedy family.
I know. It's just weird to me.
Remember William Smith,
Rapist.
Deal? And then another one of the guys, I think it was Sergeant Schreiber's son that, these guys, they got off.
Well, his dad, you got to look at his dad.
And then Ted Kennedy, Chappaquiddick, like anybody else would be in prison.
Yeah. Well, it's like he's another Biden.
Yeah.
These people, they think money protects them from everything. So, it's a shame. But anyway, Bobby Jr., it's a sad story. His dad and his uncle, I really respected John and Bobby. I was a Democrat back in those days. I was just a college student, and actually I was in junior high when his uncle died. And I'll never forget because I got to see those speeches live. When they spoke all of those, his JFK's inaugural speech, and then Bobby Kennedy, I'd see his speeches and things, and it was It's amazing the things I got to see live. You probably saw some of those, JFK's inaugural speech.
I was way too young. I was 2 years old when actually Kennedy was already president when I was born.
Oh, you're that much younger than me. I'm an old man.
Yeah.
I'm old.
Yeah, no, I remember waking up one morning in early June and the TV's on and my brother, Kennedy got shot, referring to Bobby. And that was my first memory of any of them.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's so weird. Because see, I still remember. Ask not what your country can do for you, but and then I remember, I was in junior high when they came in and told us that he was shot, and then later that he had died, and they let us out of school. I was in Catholic school at the time in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
and they let us all go home. They said go home, and everybody was in tears. Everybody was crying. And somebody said something, and I was laughing at the time. I didn't even know. And this one kid wanted to beat me up because I was laughing. And, he was so upset that JFK, he thought I was laughing about that. And it wasn't anything like that. And he was upset about that. And then when Bobby died, I was in Germany at the time. I was a junior in high school at that time. But yeah, it's kind of interesting at that time. But that was an interesting era. Well,
Bobby had, just 2 months before he died, he pretty much saved Indianapolis from riots when he was the first to tell them about ML King dying. And his speech is probably one of his best ad-lib speeches ever, Bobby Kennedy. It's what he said on the tarmac of the airport.
Do you remember that song, Abraham, Martin, and John?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's still we should play that sometime. Yeah, it was good. What's sad, though, to me is that I think so many people do their names an injustice because they have stretched who they were and what they really stood for.
Well, yeah, Abraham Martin, that's the great Dion DiMucci. Wrote that.
That's right. That is
went on to do Christian music.
Yeah. That was Dion. Yeah, I forgot that was Dion. Yeah.
So that guy's had quite a year, quite a life from keep away from the run around.
Bebopper.
Yes.
A bebop singer. And then
later in his life, he really, really recommitted to his Catholic faith. Of course, it was a more evangelical time of his life of going into Christian music, but he started hearing just things that he just was more Catholic hatred. And he and his wife were sitting in some meeting he had performed earlier than that. And his wife, referring to some scandal back in centuries ago. And his wife says, you know what? If your denomination was 2,000 years old, you'd have a few scandals too.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to get into arguments all the time and with people because my wife and I both came out of the Catholic.
Yeah, as did I. Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to just get so angry. I still do get so upset with people who want to attack the Catholic Church and call them the Antichrist and all that.
Yeah.
And I just get angry because I say, the Catholic Church is who really has kept the faith through the ages. It's like you've got a line from the birth of Christ or to his resurrection here, and they may have done this and this and this and this, but from the time Protestantism has come, you've had them like snake handling Baptists.
There's been all kinds of extremes.
The this Methodist and that Methodist and the what is it, the twice baptized, and there's so many. The Protestant church has gone off to so many things. That's why I call myself, I'm non-denominational.
Yeah, you be careful. You're sounding like it's the bulk of Protestants have gone off.
No.
Okay.
No. What I'm saying is, if you're going to throw stones at the Catholics for doing this and this,
right,
then you have to look at the Protestant church for their groups that
Right.
have shot sects. Let's put it this way.
Right. Well-
Because you have sects within the Catholic Church. For example, you take the what are they called? What is the ones that were the investigators?
Jesuits?
The Jesuits.
Mhm.
The Jesuits at one time started out as a pure idea,
Yes.
but then ended up becoming these persecutors.
Yes.
And horrible stuff
Yes.
that they did.
Yep. And this thing, I read early in my Christianity, I read Fox's Book of Martyrs, which is very well documented stuff. And you don't have to deny it, nor do you have to let it just so shade your view of things. What Dion DiMucci's wife said to him, is true. The longer you're around, the more unfortunate history is going to collect.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. So when I hear these people attacking the Catholic Church, I just I become angry because I said you don't. It's like I always say in insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't make my insurance better. Like when I was a farmer's agent, I didn't make my insurance better by attacking State Farm or Travelers or this and that. I make mine better by presenting my product.
So when my youngest son, youngest brother was home from seminary, he was studying to be a priest.
This is the prologue, by the way. The show's over.
Yeah.
This is just
when my youngest brother was home from seminary one weekend, I was up, it was Christmas time. He said, Dave, he said, the Catholic Church is the first Protestant church. He said, they split off of Constantinople and wanted to have their headquarters in Rome. And it was just a turf war between all these bishops.
Well, and then they split again and moved over to Madrid, into Spain. That was the far western reach.
Yeah.
They actually had one in Madrid and then in Rome.
Yeah. So here's this guy studying to be a priest, and he's telling me all these things that I had never been told. He said, like celibacy, he said that was never required until the 1500s about priests being celibate. And he's just starting all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, so they think you can handle the truth, and then they lie to the rest of us, to make us sound like, because remember, the Roman Catholic Church started when Jesus said to Peter, Peter, upon this rock I build my church.
Right.
In other words, he made Peter the first pope.
Yeah.
So we hear all these things. Somewhere in there's truth. Right. Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I left that because, well, basically, like some say, why worship the saints, or why talk to the saints when you can talk to God?
Yeah.
That was the bottom line. So, I don't feel I need to go through all of that when I have a direct line to God. Okay. That is, to me, the main thing.
Right.
I don't need a priest.
Yes.
I thank God, okay, they've got priests and they feel they can go. I mean, like my friend was the pastor, the first two pastors I had were the type of pastors where I would go to them, and anything I had, I would go right to them and share. And, I haven't had that relationship since then.
Yeah.
And that's one of the tragedies today, I think, that too many the churches have grown to a size, your mega churches. You got to see, the under pastors, or this pastor, that pastor, or you got a marriage pastor, a youth pastor, a social pastor, a sports pastor.
I know. It's bigger is more successful. That's the lie you hear.
Exactly. Yeah. Where I miss the that's just the pastor, everybody knows the pastor. And when there's a function, he's there with you. He's playing on the church softball league or the basketball league or this. But anyway, as far as, like I said, the one church that has towed the line, for example, even today, when it comes to abortion, okay, the pro-life stand, the Catholic Church is still the one that has not wavered from that stand. When it comes to homosexuality, the official church stand, forget the Pope, forget Papa, forget Papa, but the official church stance is, and I think that's why Ratzinger, Pope Benedict, Ratzinger was his actual name, but that's why I believe he resigned, because there was pressure on him to start going easier, and he would have called fire down on everybody.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was I don't know if you read any of his books.
Oh, yeah.
He was a very conservative, old school.
Yeah, and a theologian. I mean, he was really a scholar.
Exactly.
The administrative role my thought was he just didn't want all that in administrative.
Yeah, but I think overall he was having struggles, and they were having struggles with him, and he said, listen, for me to keep my faith, let me just step out of this.
Being Pope will send me to hell.
Yeah. Let me just go back and serve the Lord. And
that's the most important thing.
It is. But overall, the church, because you still see bishops and priests that are standing tall, and the church is attacking them. But overall, I think the faith has. So what I'm trying to say is, I will not attack the Catholic Church. I will attack people in the issues within the Catholic Church. I will not attack the Baptist Church, because I know too many solid, good Baptists, Methodists, you name Presbyterians, whatever they are. Within each denomination, you have good ones, sound ones, and you have unsound. Well, and that's the important thing.
Yeah. The thing I want to say, I'm always hesitant when I say things similar. I've always said things similar about the Catholic Church, kept the core Christian faith. It could be a circular argument too. Like, much of what I'm taught in church history is very Eurocentrist, and it ignores the Chaldean Church of the East, the Coptic Church, the church that went to India, because it happened, we only see the part that, quote, we came from.
Right.
And we aren't taught, what led to the whole Black History Month in our schools was we weren't teaching kids Africa and its contributions to world history. It was more European focused, and you could justify a lot of that, but not to the exclusion of all other narratives. And in church history, we seem to follow a lineage that our denomination came from, and that came from, and that came from. And we need, I was listening to a guy who's a leader in the Chaldean Church, or the Assyrian Church of the East is actually the name of it. He said when Marco Polo showed up in the Great Khan's court, he was shocked to find half of them were already Christian. How'd that happen? That was when a Roman goes over and finds other Christians have been here. The Armenian Church, there's another one. And so I think it's important to see the big picture.
Yeah. There's a book from Jerusalem to Irian Jaya. It's a great book. It's a church history book, but it's written in a different way. Yeah, and it's one of the best books I've ever read. But it tells the stories of all these different movements throughout the world, and how it happened. This
would be another good reason to have our family friend Yanni from Russia that we talked about at the beginning of the show, to have her come to talk about, because the Russian Orthodox Church, which is really just a split from the Eastern Orthodox, which of course will just call themselves the Orthodox. We're not the Eastern, we are the Orthodox Church. Yes, we are the one that Peter found.
Well, what's funny is because that's one of the big things in Ukraine right now. Mm-hmm. You've got the Eastern Orthodox, but then you have the Russian Eastern Orthodox.
And the Ukrainian Orthodox.
I'm sorry, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, it's the Ukrainian Orthodox and the Russian Orthodox. And the Russian Orthodox is the one that's being persecuted by the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Mm-hmm. It's like the Southern Baptist and the other Baptist in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just like a crazy, crazy thing. And what did Paul say? Why are there, James, why are there divisions among you?
Yes.
Because each of you is seeking self above everything else.
And if you can't find a devil, you create one just to elevate yourself.
Yep. Hey, I think we ought to probably wrap this up, people. Sorry, you're involved. We could go forever, but we will not involve you all. So we appreciate you tuning in. And hey, thank you so much. And God bless. Pray for our nation. Yes. The eclipse day after tomorrow for most of you in this area. Dallas is going to be right in the center of it. Wow. South Texas, South Oklahoma, the Texas border. Texas,
Durant area.
Right.
And then it'll kind of skirt to the east of us.
It goes a little, we will see probably 90%, most of it. So it should be fun. My sister-in-law, she lives in Dallas, but she's always excited. She sent my wife and I a pair of the glasses you wear to see the eclipse. Yeah. So
I like the pinhole version.
Oh, the pinhole, and you look at the ground.
Tiny dot, and you hold it there, and you get an inverse. So as the moon's moving in front of the sun, you'll see the crescent sun.
Right.
And that's the safest way to see an indirect image.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd rather just burn my eyes out.
Yeah. Yes. The eye doctors are saying, I'm
just going to put sunglasses over my camera lens.
Yeah. The eye doctors are saying, honey, we're canceling vacation. My schedule's getting long.
Business is going to boom here in the next week.
Yeah.
Hey, bless all you guys. Right. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you then. There it is.